Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex, and my co-host Anthony Rivardo. Today we're talking Pro Bowl New York Giants. Reflection from 1 year ago. No New York Giants were even... This is like a Star Wars intro. So long ago, in a universe far, far away, the New York Giants had 0 Pro Bowlers in 2019. But here we are, 1 year later. Patrick Graham has 6 defenders. 6 defenders in contention for a Pro Bowl spot. Okay, 6 contenders. Last year, James Bettcher literally took the axe to his players, put them in positions to essentially fail, and like with DeAndre Baker, a player that was best known for his press man coverage skills, playing a zone coverage to really show him why he was taken in the first round. Don't know why. That was James Bettcher's methods, but here we are with Pat Graham, doing a far better job, and we're seeing the results of it with Pro Bowlers, a bunch of guys. We're going to talk about them today, Anthony. But before we dive into it, my friend, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And what are you thinking about this week?
What am I thinking about this week? What a random question. You're just being very strange today, Alex. That's what I'm thinking about. You and your weird energy.
I'm super excited. I feel so excited.
He's just very energetic right now. It's very strange, but we're going to roll with it. I'm doing quite well. I'm excited, too, to talk about some Pro Bowlers because the Giants have some Pro Bowlers for sure this year, it seems like, and that's really exciting because we had 0 last year, and that was really disappointing. But that was also a reflection of the overall team's performance and popularity last year. Obviously, a lot of Giants fans were really upset with the way that the team was performing. This year, I think there's been a lot more excitement around the team. We're actually competing for a playoff spot right now. We're playing meaningful games into December, which is really important. That was one of the key things that we needed to see from Joe Judge and this new team, and we're seeing it. So I think that's really gotten everyone excited. I think Joe Judge has a lot to do with that. Pat Shurmur, he was just a boring individual himself, so I think things were just very boring surrounding the Giants last year. So really hard to get a boring team, get any players from a boring team into the Pro Bowl, but we're pretty exciting this year, so I think that's really, playing a big part in the Pro Bowl voting. Logan Ryan was leading the safeties, or the free safeties in the NFC for Pro Bowl voting. That's exciting. He just proved why he should be with an excellent performance this week. We did a film breakdown on that. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.
Check it out. It's
our latest
awesome.
video. It was pretty awesome. Logan Ryan was pretty dope. We also broke down a couple of other plays from some other players in there too, like Leonard Williams. Darnay Holmes had a nice little play in there, so go check it out. Dalvin Tomlinson too. Yeah, go check that out.
Delicious.
Oh yeah. The Bengals center got absolutely destroyed on Sunday, and it was a delight to watch that on film. It was truly delightful.
It was fantastic, and the Giants defense actually played phenomenal in Week 12 against Cincinnati, and we saw a bevy of players. We were doing a Logan Ryan breakdown. It ended up being a defensive breakdown just because of how well everybody played. We couldn't leave anyone out, and we were just noticing things as it went on these specific plays that were actually I picked out specifically for Logan Ryan, and we were noticing how well other players were playing, so we couldn't stop and not give them the credit for it, right?
And a lot of what it became was a Patrick Graham breakdown, like just on the defensive scheme, because he did a lot of really interesting things with disguised coverages and stuff, and I think that really is going to tie into this video that we're discussing right now with the Pro Bowlers, how Patrick Graham has really gotten the most out of every single player, and a lot of them are having career years, and that's not a coincidence. Patrick Graham has put together a scheme that is really built around the players, and they're all thriving, and they're all doing an excellent job. He has done really an excellent job. I think he is, I'm the leader of the Joe Judge fan club, but I think the number one guy on this coaching staff that's blown me away this year is Patrick Graham. Joe Judge, I think he's done an excellent job in pretty much every facet of everything, but Patrick Graham has really done an amazing job, and I wouldn't be surprised if teams interview him for a head coaching position this offseason because he has been that phenomenal for us, and that's really exciting. And, of course, the Pro Bowl players, the Pro Bowl caliber players that we have are also exciting. I think that a lot of that has to do with how well Patrick Graham has coached them.
100% agreed. Patrick Graham has been a godsend for this Giants team. And reflecting back on last year, like I said before, they had no Pro Bowlers. There was nobody in contention for a Pro Bowl nod. And now we have 6 players to talk about. And I'm pretty excited about that because I love talking positive football when it comes to the Giants. It's been too long. We've been waiting around just for this team to come together and really give us a chance to be excited about them. And the first guy I want to touch on is James frickin' Bradberry. Ranks 2nd in pass breakups and 4th in interceptions this year. 15 passes defended. Okay, 15 passes defended in 11 games. He had 15 passes defended in 16 games in 2018, and that was the only time he's ever even reached 15 passes defended. His combined tackles is only 33 because no one's throwing him. No one's throwing him the ball. No one's targeting him in coverage because why are you going to target him right now? Philadelphia figured out why. They figured out why really quickly when they targeted him 8 times and gave up 15 yards, and then they ended up losing. So that's what happens when you have bad coaches trying to target the Giants' best cornerback, who's one of the best guys in the NFL right now, with a 58.5% completion percentage against him. He's allowed 3 touchdowns, but 2 of them came in week 1. After that, he's been absolutely phenomenal, hands down. The only knock on him is that he has a 15.4% missed tackle rate. But when you're not throwing the ball toward him, it doesn't really matter that much. He's a cornerback for a reason. His entire goal is to shut down opposing receivers. So I'm really excited to see what he can continue to do this season. And really what he's been doing the entire year so far. But from your perspective, what are you excited about with him? And do you think he can build off those momentum the last 5 games of the year and in 2021?
Absolutely, and I want to mention the missed tackle percentage real quick because that's something that I noticed on film is that he was missing tackles, and that number is pretty high. But what I've noticed is a lot of it is he's about to engage in like a gang tackle, like there's him and another guy coming, like a safety, like Jarrell Peppers or Logan Ryan is about to make the tackle, and James Bradberry just kind of slows the guy down, dives at him, and misses the tackle, but what he really does is effectively slows the guy down to the point where it's just an easy wrap-up tackle for one of the safeties. That's what I've noticed on the film a lot from James Bradberry. So yeah, his missed tackle rate might be a little high, but I think that's a little misleading because I think that he has made some pretty good plays in run defense as well. He had a nice forced fumble in week 1 against Juju Smith-Schuster. That stands out to me. And I think that a lot of the missed tackles aren't really like killer missed tackles like we used to have with Janoris Jenkins, where it's one man to beat and he just doesn't even try. I think that's really different from James Bradberry, who's just kind of slowing people down and then letting a more sure tackler finish the job. I think that's really what we're seeing there. But really, there's not enough good things that you could say. Or, I mean, there's plenty of good things that you could say about James Bradberry. I don't know what phrase I was trying to say there. Like, you can't say enough about James Bradberry. That's what I was trying to say. He has been phenomenal. He has locked down pretty much every single receiver that he's gone up against this year. And, he's been a big part of the reason why this defense has been so good. He's just taking away one half of the field, completely shutting down one complete receiver and just locking them up and leaving opposing offenses with one less option. And I think that's really key. And I think that's really helped the pass rush get home. The coverage has been better, and I think that's helped the pass rushers, the interior defensive linemen like Leonard Williams and Dalvin Tomlinson. I think that's helped them out a lot. James Bradberry has really been a big key in this defense and part of its success.
Yeah, 100%. Just to finish off with Bradberry, the last 3 weeks, like the first 8 weeks of the season were phenomenal. We know this. But the last 3 weeks, he has been lights out. Against Washington, he allowed 1 reception on 1 target for 11 yards. Against Philadelphia, 2 receptions on 8 targets for 15 yards. And against Cincinnati, 2 receptions on 3 targets for 15 yards. The guy has pretty much allowed 41 yards in 3 games. Okay, and 5 receptions. He's been lights out for the Giants.
It's pretty impressive.
I can't get enough of him at cornerback right now. He's the guy that we needed, though. Without James Bradberry and how well he's played this year, the Giants' defense is nowhere near, not even close to what they are right now. And just to remind you, their defense currently ranks 10th in points allowed, 5th in run defense, and 19th in pass defense. And that 19th in pass defense was 27th 3 weeks ago. That gives you an idea of really this team suddenly out of nowhere after that Tampa Bay loss. I think that game against that quality team showed the Giants that they can compete against some of the best in the league. And it really gave them the confidence and the motivation to say, okay, we can beat these crappy Washington, these Philadelphia, these Cincinnati teams. We can steamroll them. But we just needed that little bit of confidence to say we nearly beat a winning team. And if Daniel Jones didn't miss some of those deep balls and, Evan Ingram didn't drop some of those passes, I think that they beat Philadelphia and Tampa Bay, and they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're on a 6-game win streak right now. They lost their last 3 losses have been by a combined 6 points. Keep that in mind. So they're really good team.
Yeah,
actually.
They should be on that 6-game win streak. It's just been 1 or 2 bad breaks in both of those games, and that's really been a consistent theme all season. They've just had a couple bad breaks per game. That has kind of torn things apart and caused them to lose games, which is super disappointing. But it is what it is. We're here. We're in the hunt. We're number one in the division right now. So it's time to just, put that in the rearview mirror. Don't look back and just capitalize on what we have now and continue to ride this excellent defense that we have. Let's talk about Dalvin Tomlinson next, because Dalvin Tomlinson has been a player. I think that he's really been the best player on the Giants defense for the past few years. I think he has been so underrated. He's like a silent superstar. He's very consistent. He doesn't miss tackles. He doesn't miss games. And he comes in and week out and he performs and he fills gaps and he is a force in run defense. And over the past 2 years, we've seen him actually pick it up as a pass rusher as well. He had 3.5 sacks last year, which was a career high. And he's already up to 1.5 this year. And I think he has a good chance of getting to somewhere around 3. And maybe he can break that 3.5 career high that he set last year this year. I think that's definitely a possibility. He's really improved as a pass rusher. He looks a lot more nimble. And he is a great leader on this Giants defense. He's been here since 2017, and he's been phenomenal. 36 combined tackles. He's got 5 tackles for loss already. Last year really was a career year for him, but this year he's been pretty great as well. He had 9 QB hits last year in 16 games. He has 8 through 11 already. So like I said, he's really just been improving year to year as a pass rusher. And for a guy who's already really good to just continue to get better, that's pretty awesome. I would love it if he actually made it to the Pro Bowl this year. That would be his first Pro Bowl appearance. That would be pretty cool, even though nobody's actually appearing in the Pro Bowl. But that would be his first Pro Bowl selection, and I'd be really happy for him because, he is one of those players, like I said, a silent superstar. He has been really consistent, really good, very quietly for the Giants over the past 4 years.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And what we saw, like we mentioned before, when we were doing this film review of Logan Ryan, the one player that stood out was Dalvin Tomlinson over the center, playing this nose tackle position. He was completely dominating the Cincinnati center. Like, we don't really understand how strong of a man he is. He's 6'3", 317 pounds, and he literally, with one arm, swipes the center away on multiple occasions. And like, his chops and the way he uses his hands, he's so strong. He was a wrestler back in the day, one of the strongest guys you'll meet on the Giants defense. And, he uses it in game, and he does some really phenomenal things. If you watch his technique, he's technically sound, and it's clear that teams do not want to run the ball toward him because he manages, if he gets his paws on you, he's not letting you go. He doesn't miss many tackles. He's missed 1 tackle all year. So it's pretty impressive to see what he's capable of doing and what he's been consistently doing for the Giants the past couple of seasons. And I think he's a guy the Giants need to look at very carefully and say, I think that maybe we need to keep him long term. And that's going to be the big debate going into the offseason between Leonard Williams and Dalvin Tomlinson. At this point, watching how those 2 guys plus Dexter Lawrence, watching how they mesh and how well they play together, it's going to be really hard not to, to let one of those guys go. And that's a debate for another day. But Dalvin Tomlinson, man, very much deserving of being on the Pro Bowl contenders list. But as for the next player, I want to go with Leonard Williams just so we can go back to back with these defensive tackles. And Leonard Williams has had a career year this year, I believe. He's playing just absolutely fantastic football under Patrick Graham's scheme. And last time he made the Pro Bowl was in 2016. He had 7 sacks, 68 combined tackles. This year he has 6 sacks already in 11 games. And he has 36 combined tackles, 19 quarterback hits. He's going to break that this year. I think he's projected for about 26. And he has 8 tackles for a loss, which I think he'll beat this year as well. So overall, he's beating and winning in every single category. And I think that what we're seeing with the Giants this year is some of those players that we didn't anticipate to play so well this season because of how they looked last year are really rising to the occasion because of the coaching, right? I think we're finally realizing, with guys like Lorenzo Carter even, Oshane Ximines, some of the younger guys that are coming up, and, Cam Brown, Carter Coughlin, the people that you wouldn't expect to be doing so well, Tay Crowder, Mr. Irrelevant. I think that they're really playing well and actually providing some sort of value because of the coaching. And I think last year the coaching was so poor, and I think that the assistant coaching was so poor, the group that they put together, that it really held back the player development. And I think this year we're seeing the exact opposite and what it looks like to have a really good coaching staff and what they can do for players that shouldn't be producing this much at this point in time. But when it comes to Leonard Williams, he's a guy that, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think he's a product of Pat Graham's scheme right now. Would you agree?
I definitely agree. I think that he is thriving in this scheme specifically. He has always been a good player, and I think that he did thrive at one point in the Jets scheme, but as the roster overturned, as the coaching staff changed, he just kind of outgrew that place, and he needed a change of scenery. And then he came to the Giants, and I think last year, towards the end of the year, he started to really turn it on. He started to play better. But this year, he's really had a breakout season. I do expect him to post career highs in sack totals, probably quarterback hits, probably tackles for loss. All of those impact plays he has really made this year. And that was his main criticism, right, is that he was getting pressures and not sacks last year. Well, this year he's done both. He has 22 pressures, and he already has 6 sacks compared to the 17 pressures and a half a sack that he had in 8 games with the Giants last year. So he's absolutely been phenomenal as a pass rusher, which is really what we needed desperately. This team needed a pass rusher, and it seems like we found it on the interior with Leonard Williams. And yeah, he's been a product of the scheme. He has really thrived in this scheme. It's playing him to his strengths, and it's really great to see. And you mentioned the contracts, right? Because Leonard Williams is due for a contract, right? He's playing on the franchise tag, and Dalvin Tomlinson is also due for a contract. To me, as badly as I want the Giants to get a number 1 receiver, hopefully in free agency or the draft, whether that means signing Kenny Golladay, Allen Robinson, or drafting somebody, right? As badly as I want that, I think that it is more important for the Giants to keep this core 3 defensive linemen together.
Agreed.
Of Leonard Williams, Dalvin Tomlinson, and Dexter Lawrence. So I totally support spending all that money to sign both Dalvin Tomlinson and Leonard Williams to long-term deals. I think the way that this defense is constructed, it is so crucial to keep those 3 together. And the things that they do for the guys in the secondary and the second level is so important. They really help everybody out. Everything works in tandem on this defense, and it really all just starts up front with the defensive line. Those 3 need to stick together, and they need to play their entire careers together. That's the way that I see it. And like I said, I really want to see Kenny Golladay in Big Blue, like really badly. I'm hoping that somehow the Giants can figure out the way to stretch the cap space out. Maybe cut some players. I don't know, maybe you say Golden Tate or you say Nate Solder or somebody else. There are some ways to create some cap space this offseason. I'm hoping that they figure out a way to do it. Because, yeah, I would love for them to sign a big number 1 primary receiver. I think that would help Daniel Jones out a ton. And then, of course, but I just think it's more important. Keep those 3 defensive linemen together. Re-sign both of them. I'm sure at one point in the past I was totally on the train of letting Leonard Williams walk, but after he's had this breakout year and expecting Patrick Graham, if he's is around long-term, if Patrick Graham's around long-term, you need to keep Leonard Williams around long-term. Those 2 in tandem are phenomenal, and I think that not only in the pass rush but in the run defense, Leonard Williams has been phenomenal, and he needs to be a long-term answer.
I know, I 100% agree. I mean, Leonard Williams has been a stud this year. And talking about the cap space a little bit, I think that if Leonard Williams signs a long-term deal with the Giants, it's going to be worth about an average of $14 million per season, maybe $15 million, which is actually $1 million or $2 million down from the 16.1 he's making right now. So they'll save a little bit of money there.
And it wouldn't be fully guaranteed, so it would free even more cap space than that $1 or $2 million. It would free even more than that because it's not fully guaranteed.
Right, and then you have a guy like Nate Solder, who, if it's a post-June 1st cap cut, I think it's like a $10 million savings instead of a $6 million savings. So I'm pretty, sure they're going to get rid of him. Golden Tate's a goner. They'll save a couple million there, maybe $6 million, I think. And then there's a bunch of more guys, but the really what I like to see here is the youth. And even if the cap space takes a hit because of COVID-19 or whatnot, I've seen it could go down as much as $20 million. They can backload that contract to the second year a little bit, and really just open the space up for next season, and then wait for the cap to go back up in 2021, because it will after the season. So I think they'll find ways to get away with it. I think they'll be able to sign Dalvin and Leonard Williams to long-term extensions. They'll manage to save money with Leonard Williams on the long-term deal, and I think with Dalvin Tomlinson, they'll be able to get his contract settled with the money he's making now, plus Golden Tate and Nate Solder. That'll be plenty to cover. And then in the draft, you go with I'm actually starting to shy away from the idea of drafting an outside linebacker, because what Patrick Graham has done with those guys, and without Lorenzo Carter, without O'Shane Ximenez, but now we have Carter Coughlin. Kyler Fackrell just hit IR. We have Cam Brown and Carter Coughlin as our main guys, and Jabal Shared. What he's managed to do with the OLB position has been phenomenal, and I actually don't think that he needs an elite talent there. I think that those interior guys are the most important, and I think getting a number 2 cornerback that's actually very good is the priority, and a wide receiver. So I could see them going cornerback and wide receiver in rounds 1 and 2 in the draft. and just maybe signing another guy, because then Kyler Fackrell's on a 1-year deal as well. He's 4.6 million, so he'll be coming off the books. So there's a lot to work with in terms of cap space and what they're going to do with the draft. So and this wide receiver draft upcoming is really deep. Chris Olave is a guy I really like from Ohio State. So we'll see what happens, and I think that there's a lot of talent to look at. Obviously, during the offseason, we're going to be doing endless research on these prospects for you guys and doing breakdowns of each one individually that the Giants are being mocked. So we'll get there when the time comes. But for now, let's focus on the great players that we do have on the roster. And the next one I want to talk about is Logan Ryan, because he's the guy that we did this film breakdown for yesterday. If you know, again, go check it out. It's really dope. And I'll let you talk a little bit about Logan Ryan, what you've seen from him, because you've seen a lot of him in the secondary and what he's been able to do.
I've seen Logan Ryan really fit this scheme. Again, and that's a theme here, right? I've seen him play that free safety role to a T. He has been phenomenal playing that role. Disguising coverages. He is really good at playing disguised coverages. He kind of moves around a lot. You pointed this out during the film breakdown that he kind of stands parallel to the sideline, right? And he just kind of roams around in the back end. And then as soon as the play begins, he runs to his coverage. And he's very good at that. He's very good at being that ball hawk, rangy safety in the back that the Giants have severely missed for years. You know, we've really needed that, and we haven't had it. And he's filled that role. And it's really impressive that he's filled that role, because he's never played free safety full-time before. He's played it here and there, but this is his first year as a safety, and he has been so good as a safety that he is on his way to making the Pro Bowl for sure, it looks like. So that's really exciting, and he's been a big part of this defense. Another guy that I really hope they can re-sign somehow. Like we said, there's a lot of players that they need to sign or re-sign, so it might get really tough for them to fit all these guys under the salary cap. But Logan Ryan, long term, that's a guy you do want to keep around, not only for his performance on the field, but for his leadership off of the field and on the field. He has been a leader for this team. He's a guy that you definitely want to keep around. And in terms of what I've seen from him, I've seen him make impact in the run game. In the pass game, pass coverage has been phenomenal, and then he even gets down in the box, makes a lot of clutch tackles, forces fumbles, gets interceptions like he did against Washington. He has been so good for this team, and like I said, we really needed a rangy free safety. We have not had that in a long time. We desperately needed that, and he's totally filled that role, and he, again, is a perfect scheme fit in Patrick Graham's defense.
Yep. There's not much else to say. I mean, you really hit it all on the head. But what I will say is that he's a first-year free safety, right? This is the first year he's really taken the role of safety on, and he's already a contender for a Pro Bowl nod, which is pretty impressive. And again, he's a Rutgers guy. He's a native New Yorker. He wants to. I think he wants to stay in New York personally, and I think that this is his third contract, right? He's already gone through a rookie deal. He's already gone through his secondary contract with the big money in Tennessee, and now he's going for his third contract. So I think he might actually allow the Giants to offer him a pretty reasonable, fair deal instead of like forcing the price up like he did this past offseason he tried to do. I think he'll actually try to settle with the Giants. He obviously fits this scheme really well. He loves it here. His family is here. I think that if they offer him a pretty fair deal, he will take it, and I think that the Giants will be good. Remember, he's 29 years old, so he's no spring chicken. But I do think that he has a ton of value to this defense, and as a free safety, he added more years to his football life by playing free safety, because now he doesn't need that elite speed to play cornerback anymore. He can become that kind of mirroring safety, reading the quarterback's eyes. If you watch the film, you'll see plays parallel to the sidelines. He really does a lot of pre-snap motion on the defensive side, and then post-snap trying to disguise looks. And he's a huge cog in this Patrick Graham system. I think him and Patrick Graham are talking all the time about how they're going to confuse opposing quarterbacks, get them to bait them into throws, create turnovers. I think it's important to mention that he has 1 interception and 3 forced fumbles this year. The guy has been an absolute stud. He would have had a second interception against Cincinnati if Jabril Peppers didn't stand in the way. So there's a lot to love about Logan Ryan. I think the defense, they need to try and stay as close to the same as possible without shaking things up. And on to the next guy. Let's say Jabril Peppers. Let's talk about Jabril Peppers. I think he's probably the furthest from actually making the Pro Bowl, but he has been an absolute monster the past couple of games. What do you think about Jabril?
I think he's really stepped up his play in recent weeks. another perfect scheme fit, it seems like. He's been really great getting down in the box, and he's been really improved in coverage this year as well. I know he's had a couple bad plays in coverage, which you expect because he hasn't ever been like a great coverage guy. You think the Boston Scott touchdown versus Philadelphia, for example, right? But overall, he has been really good for the Giants. He, again, another leader on the back end, and a guy who just makes plays at every level. So that's really all you can ask for, and I don't think he's necessarily going to make the Pro Bowl, but I do think that he's playing at a Pro Bowl level. He's playing a really good season, and it's exciting to see him really step up his game over recent weeks. And, you know, he's a guy who's going to be due for a contract soon enough, so we do need him to continue to improve so that we can justify signing him long term. At this point, I think, yes, you do want to sign him long term. I think he's really proven that this season. And, you know, just another scheme fit, man. That's really the best way to keep talking about these guys. Another great scheme fit for Patrick Graham. Like we said, he's getting the absolute most out of all of these players, Jabril Peppers included. Very exciting stuff there. I think he's kind of having a career year this year, and I'm really excited to see him continue it.
Yep, 100%. This past week in Cincinnati, he had the highest coverage grade of his entire career. So 88. Okay, so I'll give you these stats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive games of allowing 4 receptions or more. Against Cincinnati, he allowed 1 reception for 1 yard. Okay, he had a absolute just monster performance. Had a 90 overall grade on defense. The guy has been a stud the past couple of weeks. There's no getting around it. And I think with Xavier McKinney coming back, and this is something Anthony mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we think that he could actually fit the money backer role really well. So right now the Giants don't have that inside linebacker alongside Blake Martinez to really hold it down in coverage and manage these tight ends and running backs, and we think Jabril Peppers could be that guy.
He played that a lot on Sunday against Cincinnati. He was in the box playing the money backer role a lot because the Giants were doing something interesting, and I think that they were doing this to prepare for when McKinney's healthy. They were playing a lot of 3 safety looks. They had a lot of Julian Love on the field this past week playing free safety, and then they were moving Logan Ryan around. They were kind of interchanging them, free safety and strong safety, but they were going with those 2 on the back end, and they were putting Jabril Peppers in at the money backer role a lot. So I expect that once McKinney is healthy, he's going to take the role that Julian Love was playing, play that, and then keep Logan Ryan and him on the back end, and then continue with Jabril Peppers in at the money backer role. So we're already seeing that, and I expect to see it even more down the stretch as Xavier McKinney continues to ease into this lineup.
Right, and theoretically, let's say you have your 3 big men who all can draw double teams, right? For if you have 5 offensive linemen, 2 of those guys, let's say Dalvin and Leonard Williams are both drawing double teams, and Dexter Lawrence is one-on-one. Then you have guys like Xavier McKinney, Jabril Peppers, Blake Martinez, who can play up at the line of scrimmage in the box. And I actually don't think it's crazy to think that we will see Julian Love, who's been playing well at free safety and coverage as well. I think Julian Love, Xavier McKinney, Jabril Peppers, and Logan Ryan on the field at the same time is not crazy to think. What do you think about that?
I don't think it's crazy to think at all. I think it would be a really good configuration for the defense.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because at this point I think Jabril Peppers can play that down linebacker and really help in the box and really cover those flat routes and underneath routes on the running back. So we'll see how this progresses. But Patrick Graham has a lot left to unearth with this defense and this secondary and these linebackers and safeties. So I'm really excited to see what he can conjure up in the coming weeks. But the one guy that has been a phenomenal at linebacker for us this year is Blake Martinez, ranks 4th in overall tackles this year with 101 combined tackles, 5 quarterback hits, 6 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, interception, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery. The guy's been absolutely all over the place. He's not the best in coverage, but that's not what he's known for. Hasn't allowed any. Here's a good statistic to know, though. In 2018, right? 2018, he allowed 5 touchdowns in coverage. 2019, 2 touchdowns in coverage. 2020, 0 touchdowns in coverage. So what can we say from that? They're using him the right way. They're not actually forcing him to play this zone coverage deep in the secondary. They're allowing him to stay in the box, play these underneath routes, and not drift too far back into the secondary, which I really like for him because he's supposed to be around the line of scrimmage and really managing that middle of the field right there. He's that game manager that you want at linebacker, and he's really mitigating those big running plays and helping in the run game specifically so much. So I'm really, really excited about Blake Martinez as a guy that's going to be with us for 2 more years. And this is one of his best years tackling. I think it's 4 consecutive years with 100 plus tackles. Yeah. So, and he's on pace to maybe beat 155 he had last year. So we'll see about that. But overall, man, I've been blown away with his performance and really surprised.
Yeah, I hate to be so repetitive, but Blake Martinez is the definition of a scheme fit in Patrick Graham's defense. We've talked about this many times with Patrick Graham playing or coaching in Green Bay. He was the linebackers coach in 2018 when Blake Martinez had a career year, and then he built this defense around Blake Martinez this year, and he is once again having another career year. So, scheme fit. He's phenomenal. He has played really well. I'm not sure for sure if he's going to make it to the Pro Bowl because he's kind of had a couple games where he struggled and he hasn't been as dominant in recent weeks as he was at the beginning of the season. And I think there's going to be, a lot of recency bias around the Pro Bowl voting, and he hasn't been so amazing recently. But I do think he's deserving of a Pro Bowl nod. Like you mentioned, he's over 100-something tackles every single year. He's always leading the league in tackles pretty much. So I definitely think he deserves a Pro Bowl nod. He's been really solid for the Giants. I'm happy that he's going to be here for at least the next 2 years, and hopefully, him and Bradberry, they're signed through the next 2 years. Hopefully they both get signed a little bit longer than that. I'd like to see them be long-term players that can, grow into that veteran role and continue to thrive with the Giants.
Yep, 100%. Martinez is a guy that fits that scheme perfectly. We know Patrick Graham coached him with Green Bay a couple years ago, and he had some of his best seasons. So I'm pretty excited to see how he continues to build into this defense and adapt to his role. But he's done a phenomenal job doing it so far in 2020, and he's a guy, like you mentioned, that might not make the Pro Bowl, but he has certainly been a star for the Giants, and I think maybe could be a really, really good Pro Bowl contender next year with another year of experience in this scheme. But for our last player, this is another free agent signing that has blown us away. Graham Gano already earned himself a second contract with the Giants, I think $14 million through 2024, I believe. It's a couple of years. So and notice the trend here. A lot of 3-4 year contracts, no 5-year, no Jerry Reese 5-year contracts, no more, please and thank you. Graham Gano has been an absolute stud for us. 96.2% field goal percentage rate. He hasn't missed an extra point this year. The only kick he missed was against Chicago earlier this year. And I mean, 50+ yard field goals against Dallas a couple weeks ago, which was the most in the Super Bowl era history. And then you have, this past week beats the crap out of COVID, still feeling symptoms, still pretty weak, kicks 3 field goals. And those field goals are the reason the Giants won, by the way. The Giants won by 2 points. If he misses one of those kicks, the Giants lose. So, we're seeing right now what it means to have a good kicker, a guy who can battle through COVID, a guy who can come up and show up every single week. I know he picked up an injury a couple weeks ago and played through it anyway. Screw that. I'm going to beat the shit out of that too. He's been phenomenal, and I assume you believe the same. He's a guy that will make the Pro Bowl, I think.
I definitely think he should. I don't think he was near the top of the voting last time they announced the voting, but he should be. He has literally been the most accurate kicker in the NFL this season. He is not missing kicks. He has been automatic, like you mentioned, kicked COVID's ass, then kicked the football's ass, and kicked the football through the uprights at 100% accuracy once again on Sunday. He's been phenomenal this year. All of these players that we've mentioned have been. They've all been big free agent signings, most of them. They've all been, really good for the Giants. Scheme fits. Graham Gano is really, not a scheme fit. He's a kicker, but a nice surprise signing. We had a lot of trouble in the offseason with Aldrick Rosas, so we had to kind of just sign the best guy available, and luckily we found absolutely the best guy available. Graham Gano, coming off of a significant injury last season, has stepped in this year and not missed a step. He's having arguably one of the best seasons of his long veteran career, so that's really exciting. I'm happy that they already extended him and that he is going to be here long-term because he is clearly the answer long-term at kicker. And I totally hope that he makes the Pro Bowl because that is just a great story for a guy to have a season-ending injury, come back, play well, get COVID, come back from that, and then make the Pro Bowl. That would be really cool, and I hope that happens.
Agreed. The Giants have a pretty awesome list of guys here that are Pro Bowl contenders, and I think 6 of them being on defense is pretty impressive. So we'll see how these guys actually progress throughout the rest of the year, but I think it's going to be positive, and I think that next year will even prove that further. Interesting to see what happens during the offseason with guys like Dalvin, Leonard, Logan Ryan, 3 free agents right there. But I think the Giants should find and use any method possible to try and keep these guys, even if it means blackmailing Roger Goodell to increase that cap space for him a little bit. We'll see what happens. But nonetheless, appreciate you guys for tuning into Fireside Giants. As always, make sure to hit our Instagram. Awesome content I'm posting every day there. A lot of film stuff. You don't find that on Instagram very often. So film stuff there, cool infographics and whatnot. So making it super, just cool and informative for you guys. Also our Twitters. Don't forget about our Twitters. Alex Wilson ESM, Anthony_Rivardo. Have those memorized because I've said it so many times. But nonetheless, I think we've been doing a pretty good job breaking down these teams, breaking down these players, and I really appreciate all of your support because we couldn't do it without you guys, and all the positivity you send our way really motivates us to do a really good job and even better every single day. So thank you for that, and really hope you guys have phenomenal holidays. The vaccine's coming out. Hopefully you guys get your hands on those. So we'll see what happens, but I'll be waiting. And we'll catch you guys next time. Thank you for being on the Fireside Giants channel. Have a good one.